face, because America is a part of the big three: America, China, Russia, America, white, Mongolia, the big three. Now we are over with the United Allies, that organization, the organized global group. And I'm serious. It really seems like a organized syndicate. Trump didn't work with them. North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Key phrase, term, organization. Sounds mafioso. Sounds mafioso. And getting back to the politics, A Better Black America podcast, #1 urban podcast stateside and worldwide. Politics, our way, from the lens of a black perspective, from a black man. Kamala Harris was asked a question, and the question was posed to her after she spoke today in Romania. Madam Vice President, President Joe Biden said at his address to the State of the Union last week that the price for democracy and the price for freedom is expensive. Now, with gas prices $7 in California, inflation as high as it's ever been, and now we're dealing with other crises. So what do you have to say to the American people? Or is there a timetable in which these inflated resources start to come down? And she came out and said, look, I know what's going on. And, you know, you have to be loyal to your friends. You know, you have to be loyal to your friend. And when she said that, I thought about Biden when he paid the $6 million to stop his son from being investigated by the prosecutor in Ukraine. So that's his friend. The Democratic Party clearly does not understand laws of power, because the power is calling the shots, because the power is making money on both sides, burning the candle from both ends, which they would say. Because the power, laws of power, you keep your friends close. You have to be loyal to your friends, Kamala Harris. But what about your enemies? Laws of power, you keep your enemies close. And I'm telling you, just go ahead and Google President Trump meeting Putin. Putin reached his hand out. Trump's about 6'2". Putin is a little smaller in stature. President Trump grabbed his hand and snatched him to him, pulled him, and looked like he said in his ear, you know, you do something. I don't know what he said in his ear, but, you know, G's go see G's. He went to see China. He went on a world tour. Biden can't even get his calls answered by the gas and oil cartels. They're not even answering his calls, because the solution is to produce resources, oil, gas, and energy, and distribute it here in America. So therefore we can cap our own prices here. Gas was under $2 on the national scale before the Biden administration came into office. And we don't even talk about crime no more. That's the distraction. So what we have to do is see it, hear it, and understand it. You know, there has to be a sovereign group of people, or a group of people, a remnant group of people that has to make a decision, like they're going to hold down certain sectors in the community. And that goes with politics. That goes with community organizing. That goes with, you know, the spiritual realm, the religious groups, the churches. And we need to get back to expanding, you know, our other issues when it comes to what's going on with the world. Because if you really understand, the resources was clearly taken out of schools to create a non-competitive market and to push our children to crime, which leads them into the penitentiary, which is the prison industrial complex. So we are not a reimagining. We just got to stop using their words and their lingo. We are going to start our own path to success from our communities. We need trade back. Now, one thing I know machines can't do is build roads. I know machines can't do electric work from an electrician perspective. I know machines can't climb poles and, work on the power lines. I know machines can't frame a house. I know a machine can't, put plumbing in that house, can't paint the house. So these blue collar, these construction, framing, carpentry, these jobs, these union things, because creating an atmosphere of success will lead to success. Because I know whenever we see some of these home invasions and it involves 3 and 4 people, I understand one person probably motivated the entire thing. The second person was probably down a little bit, but the second and third person really did not want to do that. And if they could have went to a program, an Explorer program, to where if they get through the 6 months, then they'll be hired on the job at a nice rate, well above minimum wage, with contractual bonuses down the road, and given different types of tax breaks to balance the inflation. Because if we were to reduce taxes for the low tax brackets, then that will give us instant raises on our jobs. But these are things that we can talk about. But what I'm saying is a better Black America is the future of Black America when it comes to getting us back on track. Because clearly assimilating was pretty much, in layman's terms, and Dr. King said it, delivering our people into a burning house. The people as a whole, we hold down these positions. But if you, have a position and you've been on that position, on that job, and you've been there for 20, 30 years and you retire, that was your position to have. Nobody else could have done that but you. I know that there's a large volume of people that does that. But when it comes to getting to that next level, the system is now kind of open for that. Because before, there was no way you could have, really tried to take a leap of faith. But right now, we could take leaps of faith by leaps and bounds, because the world has been set up truly independence from an independent perspective, because we've been so distracted to not come together. So now individually, we can master our own skills and talents and master our own, our abilities and put them together so they can actually resonate and create the energy to make it attractive enough so the youngsters can start asking questions. Because when I was coming up, the people in the neighborhood, that's all we saw. So if somebody had one of the best whips in the hood and pulled up, we looking like, man, I want that. I want to see that. So when you show youngsters and when they pay attention, they ask questions. Hey, what you do for a living? Can you, where are they signing people up? And just imagine if we had the answers. But we are going to have the answers. And all I'm saying is all we have to do is establish ourselves. And I think, politically, from a political science perspective, they pretty much stopped us from thinking for ourselves. And if you're not thinking for yourself, if we're not thinking for ourselves, we can be misled easily. So now that we are nonpartisan politically, nonpartisan independence, no political party preference, we are framing a Black Constitution, and we will be reaching out to Ice Cube's team with the black contract, and we will have a black convention for our presidential candidates, because we'll have a checklist for what we want and how we want it to look. And the number one thing on it is amending the 13th Amendment, which will actually liberate us on the federal level. You can't be a slave based on the Constitution on the federal level, and on a state level, you free. But that criminalization clause, those resources, those inhumane acts here in America. This is why it's crazy why we're so concerned of what's going on abroad, because we really don't know or understand, because the programming does not show light on things that need to be seen. And it's crazy living in these days and times with all these news outlets. And this is why they say it's trending. You can turn to every channel and see the same thing. This is why sometimes looking at the data and trying to find out what's really going on, and then look at least 3 different sources and find out from unbiased opinions, and then you can make an educated decision yourself. Because the things that I say, I go on record, and if I, do something wrong or say something wrong, I'm gonna go ahead and fix it. Like a redaction, like the Crenshaw High School Brawl story. It was a girl fighting 5 different girls, and it was a whole bunch of kids standing around trying to film it. And that's exactly what the video showed, confirmed by the dean of the high school. But the news outlet said, brawl at Crenshaw High School, over 100 students involved. Next after this. And even when you watch the story, that was the storyline. And a lot of times that clickbait, the news would be on and you would just see the storyline or see the headline, but you're not hearing the actual news feed. And then that takes on its own. So we saw fake news. So we understand fake news is real. And CNN was accused of fake news, and somehow their CEO resigned, and they're going to pay him out one of the biggest retirements known to man. And the female he was dealing with, they all getting paid. CNN's ratings are so low. You got a podcaster in the name of Joe Rogan who has more viewers on his podcast than they have actual on the cable outlets and on all the streaming platforms worldwide. CNN is global. As if you can hear my podcast on pretty much 80 to 90% of the podcast apps, then I'm sure you can see CNN anytime you get ready. And their ratings are garbage, have plummeted because of fake news, because of moral, ethical issues. And this is why this moralist society, I'm writing that down. I like that. Moral. I didn't look it up yesterday, but I'm going to look it up today and start looking at that, because moralist movement, moralist measures, it's like bringing church and state together, praying before we make decisions, not just targeting and looking at it from a race perspective or a class perspective, because the Ukraine-Russian war, that's white on white. And if you look at the class, a lot of the first and early images that they were showing, it showed that they was pretty much looked like everybody was going on a trip. They had beautiful clothes and jackets with fur on them, and they were just leaving, because when you go to those third world countries and when they trying to leave, it looked like chaos, but they was leaving pretty orderly. So white people, class, and I'm sure if you had power and influence, you'd be the ones to get out first. But Ukraine pretty much is done. And I'm not saying it's done in the sense of the killing and all that. We don't condone that. But just looking at it from a black perspective, we don't have nothing to do with that. That's white on white crime. We got gangbangers here in our communities getting killed, and